So the PFL recently dropped a clip of Khabib Nurmagomedov on their social media that has the MMA world going absolutely crazy right now because he basically violated Irish MMA. So we're going to take a look at that clip of Khabib in this very video, and then we're going to see what Conor said, because you know Conor McGregor was going to have a response for this, and of course, in Conor McGregor fashion, went ahead, vented out his frustration on X, and then went ahead and deleted the post. But your boy over here took some screenshots. We'll take a look at what he said. We'll see what Darren Till had to say. And I do want to point out, this is in the lead up here to Usman Nurmagomedov versus Paul Hughes, what they are calling Dagestan versus Ireland 2. And if you're looking for a breakdown and a preview with a prediction for this fight, I will go ahead and link that video down below, because if I'm just guessing here, right, this was a strategic move by the PFL / Bellator that absolutely rattled everybody. So they did a good job if this was intentional, because I assume it was, right? I mean, they got everyone talking about this right now. And then in the second half of the video, I want to talk about what Dana's big announcement and what we couldn't see possibly coming for 2025 could be, because he said this clip here, which we'll take a look at in, after Colby Covington versus Joaquin Buckley in the final UFC event of the year. And it's looking like it has something to do with Conor McGregor and Logan Paul. We'll take a look at what the Mac Life put on their website, because I think this is very telling, and I'm going to react to this because I think there's a very good possibility that this is something we see in 2025. But let's start with this first, man. I mean, Khabib, this is right here. Like I said, I don't know if this was strategic by the PFL / Bellator. They got a reaction out of basically everybody when they posted this. So anytime you post something with Khabib, people are going to be listening. And that's why I wanted to point this out to you guys first, man. That is what this is being dubbed here. Dagestan versus Ireland 2. You see it on the poster here. Why not build some tension ahead of that massive title fight, which takes place January 25th? I think it's one of the best matchups you could make outside of the UFC in terms of MMA. Usman versus Hughes, great matchup. But listen to what Khabib had to say right here.
Ireland don't have fighters, but let's be honest. How many fighters do you know from Ireland? Paul Hughes and Conor, and who else? But there is no fighter. But you come Dagestan, you can understand. So many organizations, they don't even sign Dagestan fighters because they worry about everybody can become champion, But Dagestan, and let's be honest, Dagestan level of MMA here, but Ireland level, not even half of Dagestan level.
Listen, brother. Come on, man. Listen, he violated Ireland, dog. He absolutely violated Irish MMA. Listen, the truth, it hurts, man. The truth hurts. Listen, outside of Conor McGregor, Paul Hughes, who's on the rise in the PFL, he did forget about Ian Machado Gary in the UFC right now. Who else? Who else is there? There's basically nobody. Maybe I'm off the top of my head, I'm missing someone here or there. Nobody else is a huge name, coming from Ireland right now. And in terms of, even if they aren't a big name, where are all the Irish fighters? They all use their mouth and they do all this talking, where a lot of these Dagestan guys, they could care less about having a lot to say. They show up and they back it up inside the octagon with their skills. And what Khabib is saying, right, where he's saying that promotions are, they don't sign a ton of these guys. They don't want too many of them because they will end up dominating. And you see what's happening right now inside the PFL. And the Dagestan fighters that we have inside the UFC, they're basically all guys who are either at the top of the division, were champions, are champions, or are in the process of possibly becoming a champion. So to argue with what Khabib just said, I mean, you can't really make an argument, man. You can sit there and because you may not like Khabib or whatever and try to make an argument. He violated him, man. He absolutely did. And the truth hurts, like I said. And look, Conor's a massive star. Ian Machado Gary's an outstanding fighter. And there are some good fighters, but he's telling the truth, man. He's just calling it like it is. So, but listen, let's take a look at what Conor had to say, because I assume all of this is in response to Khabib here. And in the Conor McGregor lingo, which, bear with me here, and all yous are slickers around the way. Years stood on no ground for your own. Sickening stuff. Look at yous now. You deserve exactly what's there for yous. Not a thing. Nothing. Traitorous bums. The yellow teats we call yous. Pea brains in a cage. Panache equals 0. Creativity equals poop. Wherewithal equals fart. Embarrassing to me. Like, what the fuck is he even saying? I don't even know what this tweet means, man. Like, it's just, that's why it's always like interesting whenever this guy goes on there and posts something. And I'm not a Conor fan, but whenever he posts this stuff, it's just always so weird and wild, man. And then they've done nothing ever. It's like, obviously, that's a load of shit, right? We all know Khabib, one of the best fighters of all time, went in, beat Conor McGregor, had some title defenses. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time. Islam Makhachev, one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world right now. This is like, what are you talking about, Conor? They go out and accomplish a ton of things, and right now they're basically essentially dominating in the PFL right now. Never speak my name. You are not on my level. We are not the same. I don't represent you or any of you. I represent greatness. So I don't know what he means by that. I guess he's just like, don't, basically keep my name out of your mouth. Well, we get that part. But he's like, I don't know I think he's not saying to separate himself kind of here from the Irish, fighters. But, this was a direct shot from Khabib. And then you see Conor, anytime Khabib is going to take a shot at Ireland or Conor or whatever, Conor is usually going to have a response, because a lot of that is, come on, man, like Khabib is kind of rent-free in Conor's head. He just is, man. Like, that's just the way it is. And Khabib gets under Conor's skin a lot. You can tell by the way he replies. But this is kind of just who Conor is, right? Someone says something, he has the opportunity to jump on here, say something absolutely crazy, and then he just gets people riled up, right? So that is just who Conor is. But look at what Darren Till has to say here, right? Because I thought that this was kind of interesting, because Till, he's from the UK. He's someone who's just kind of, he says he's neutral, I guess, but let's hear what he says. I've always respected Khabib and his team a lot. They are fantastic fighters, but for him to sit there and say fighters from Ireland are low level in comparison of sizes of countries and production, Ireland is actually way ahead. Ireland is so effing small and Russia is so fucking big. Ireland has produced amazing fighters over the years. I would said just over size and production of the country, Ireland wins every time. And this is not me being biased, because I am neither friends with Khabib's side or Ireland's side. I'm just stating my opinion. So first of all, Khabib didn't say Russia. He said Dagestan. He didn't say Russia. So if we're going off of Dagestan and Russia, Dagestan is smaller than Ireland, I'm pretty sure, right? So if you're going off of that, Dagestan dominates Ireland. Like, if you took Team Dagestan versus Team Ireland, Dagestan wins all day in basically anything, right? They got good strikers, they got, good wrestlers, good MMA guys. Like, they were pound for pound way better in terms of MMA, like in terms of combat, period. Like, I really don't think that that's an argument. If you are going to argue it, I feel like you're just a hater, man, because if you look at the body of work that we have seen thus far, the proof is in the pudding. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's fighters out there like Kiefer Crosby. They use their mouth. They talk a big game, and, they trash talk and try to build things up, but they get in there and they don't do well in the UFC, or they go over to the PFL/Bellator and they're kind of a 500 fighter. That's the majority of them, right? Conor McGregor was kind of an anomaly. Ian Machado Gary, kind of an anomaly. Paul Hughes, like, they have some talented guys, but the majority are just not particularly high level, and the majority of them don't have a ton of success in professional MMA in these bigger organizations that we have seen, at least recently, compared to Dagestan. I just don't know how you could possibly argue that. So again, Khabib absolutely violated Irish MMA when it comes to this, and Darren Till with the absolute L here, trying to come in and say, and save the day or whatever he was trying to do there. But let's listen to what Dana said. Let's move on to the second part here, because guys, I'm really hoping that this is not what Dana was talking about. I'm really hoping it's not what he was talking about, but I have a bad feeling, a little bit of a scary thought that this is what he was talking about. And because Dana, he's a guy he's been around for a while. He's done a lot of great things for the UFC, and he's just this guy that gets so excited about things that don't necessarily get today's MMA fan very excited. So I think that there's a little bit of a miscue between the current MMA community and Dana White, and the expectations are very different. Like, for example, UFC 300, he made it sound like we were getting, some crazy fights and crazy main event. And we did get a very stacked out card, don't get me wrong. But the way that he built it up, and again, for the Sphere, like, the Sphere was a great production, but in terms of the card, it wasn't particularly good in terms of the fights that were scheduled on there. So Dana has a tendency to hype things up really big, and then they don't meet our expectations. So let's listen to what he had to say here.
Anticipate Ovada big fights. I got something in the works right now. I'll drive you fuckers crazy. All you guys will be running around. I got something in the works that you will never fucking see coming for 2025. That literally started to come together last night, and yeah, we got some fun stuff coming up. Anticipate.
So you hear that there, and then shortly, it was either shortly before this or shortly after, that's when Conor and the rumblings of a boxing match with him and a Paul brother started to kind of loom. And then we got this the other day here from Happy Punch. The UFC is reportedly involved in deep negotiations with Conor McGregor and Logan Paul for an exhibition targeted for April. This is via Misfits Boxing News. So I know some people are like, who the hell's Misfits Boxing, or who cares what they say? They're still like a decent source, right? Misfits Boxing, they're one of the bigger boxing things going on. I know it's not particularly like high-level boxing. It's nothing like what Riyadh season's doing, but they put together some big events that draw in a bunch of casuals, people who aren't necessarily fight fans, but are fans of influencers. And they do a lot of like, influencers versus actual boxers or former MMA guys, and they draw eyeballs. Whether you like them or not, they absolutely draw eyeballs. And this is a report that's coming from them. So how credible? That's a decent source, right? Is it coming from Dana, the UFC, Conor per se? Not really. Conor's kind of alluded to this. But then what I found interesting is I did a little bit of digging and I went to the MacLife's website. And whenever they post something, this is a pretty credible source, man. This is a pretty credible source. And we all know Conor McGregor, he's had some things going on outside of fighting. He's been, I already made a video on that. I'll link that down below. And so he's got himself in some trouble. He's got himself in some issues. So what's one of the things that guys look to do whenever they find themselves in some trouble? Find a way to move on and do something else. Find a way to do something to get people talking about something else. And for Conor, he's probably sitting there going, I need to take a fight. I need to do something to kind of not make people forget, but get a new headline out there. Get something else for people to talk about. And so let's read what they have to say, because if you're sitting there saying, I don't think that this is going to happen, something to keep in mind first. WWE and the UFC are now affiliated with each other. They're now, partners. They got merged together. So to say that this is some far-fetched thing, I know Logan Paul's talking about not really wrestling anymore. This is something that they could definitely make happen. This is absolutely something that they could make happen, to where with Jake Paul, there's some of the different issues in terms of Jake Paul's got his own promotion, and there's some different things going on toward the WWE and UFC. They have a great relationship. So who's to say that Conor, can't just go in there, do this, make a bunch of money. The UFC could be a part of it so they could make a bunch of money. And then this basically gives Conor McGregor the tune-up and the cash grab that he is looking for, because he's got himself in a world of trouble, right? So I think he's probably sitting there saying, I need to make some money for myself, and I need to do something as well if I'm going to come back to the UFC that can get me back in the combat sport zone, because I've been MIA for so long. I'm coming off of a crazy injury. Let me just go in there and box somebody who's not an actual boxer, right? Like Logan Paul, he's not a good boxer, right? He's a big guy, he's strong, he's athletic, there's no question about it, and he's still dangerous, but he's not a world-class fighter. He's not a world-class boxer, right? He's in there against, Floyd Mayweather. Logan Paul's like quadruple his size, and Floyd Mayweather, I know Mayweather's one of the GOATs. He's in there, at an older age, just making Logan Paul look silly. So Conor's probably looking at this saying, look, this is a big, dangerous guy. I'm a better combat sport athlete than him in terms of actual fighting. Give me this. This is a big cash grab. And we got a family here over in India who is willing to put up the dough to make this happen. And what we have seen, if you got the money, you can make it happen in the combat sports world. So let's listen, or take a look at this. Conor McGregor's return to the boxing ring is inching ever closer. McGregor, who has competed in some of the biggest selling pay-per-views in mixed martial arts and boxing history and is the first simultaneous dual weight world champion in UFC history, is set to face the WWE and social media star Logan Paul in Mumbai, India in 2025, in a bout that will likely command the biggest purses ever paid out in combat sports. That is crazy. So bigger than we thought that Floyd and all that kind of stuff with Floyd and Conor was big. We got, Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. This is money that nobody's seen in combat sports is what they're talking about here. I don't even know, I know that this is just kind of to flex on people to have an event like this. How the hell are they even going to make their money back or even break even? I don't think that they even care about that. This is all about notoriety and just being able to do this because they got the money to. But this is what's interesting. The McGregor versus Paul bout will be hosted by India's Royal Ambani family and will take place in the historic 33,000 capacity Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai on India's west coast as part of the South Asian country's Visit India tourism campaign. According to reports, both McGregor and Paul are to be paid a sum in the region of $250 million for the fight. So each of them, right? That's what that sounds like to me. Both $250 million. That is absolutely crazy to shell out that much money for just the two guys that are going to headline. Like, you talk about just throwing money out the window just to flex on everybody. And look, we're putting on this event here. I mean, and whether you like Conor, whether you like Logan Paul, I don't like either of them. This is something that will get people talking. People are going to tune in, whether they like these people or not. It's going to be a big event. It's going to get all the social media buzz going on and all sorts of different things. This would absolutely be a big event. There's no question about it. And Conor McGregor, you know, like I've said, I don't like Conor McGregor at all, and I don't like Logan Paul either, but we saw what happened with Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. We saw when Jake Paul took on Nate Diaz. We saw when Logan Paul even took on Floyd. These things do numbers, man. Like, there's an audience and a market for this. So for people to say that this is just some ludicrous thing, it can happen, man. It can happen. And this is what's crazy here is the Ambani family figurehead, Mukesh Ambani, is ranked as the 9th wealthiest person in the world with a reported fortune of $120 billion. Can I just get $1 billion from you, dog? Like, come on, man. With the fight reportedly seen by the family as a historic moment for Indian sports and tourism. That'll do it. That'll do it. I know Conor's out there doing crazy shit and he's getting himself in trouble, but you know, in terms of the names and the star power of both of these guys in the draw, if you just throw those names on a screen over, and I mean, of course, it's got to be one of the biggest things, the biggest thing that they've ever seen, and that's clearly the goal here. They have the money, they want to draw eyeballs, they want to do this. But let's see here. Ambani's son is also said to view the contest as a foundation from which to establish India as a major player in the combat sports world and rival traditional venues in Las Vegas and more recently Saudi Arabia. So here you go. This sounds like India is trying to make a takeoff. They're trying to kind of put themselves as a staple inside the combat sports world because, like I said, if you have the money to fund these things and you got money to throw around, you can make basically anything happen as long as you can figure out the contracts and things inside of combat sports. But McGregor has, over the past decade, established himself as one of the best paid athletes of his generation, a fact which now will be amplified by participating in one of the richest spectacles ever seen in sports. So, and then again, in 2017, McGregor made his professional debut in the boxing ring against Floyd Mayweather in what was the second most viewed boxing match in history, commanding more than 4.3 million pay-per-view buys for a revenue of around $396 million. Now, will this do those numbers? I don't know, man. I don't know about all that. I think Conor McGregor, he's still a big name, don't get me wrong, but I feel like from all the stuff that's happened for him outside of fighting and all the BS that's went on and all the bad shit he's been up to, I don't know that he carries the same star power. And you have to remember, back when he boxed Floyd Mayweather, I mean, he was basically the hottest thing in combat sports right now. He was at that time, he was the biggest name. He was a huge, massive draw, and Floyd was a big draw. So putting them together is really what sold that. Like Logan Paul, yeah, he's a big name in the WWE/influencer world, but I know that covers that audience to where Conor covers, the actual combat audience. But to me, this is very just interesting, man. And additionally, McGregor lays claim to 7 of the top 10 most successful pay-per-views in UFC history, including each of the top 5. American influencer Logan Paul, the brother of Jake Paul, has competed in several boxing events. We already know about all this. And the last time Logan Paul was in there, it was against Dylan Dennis, who was Conor McGregor's training partner / is. I don't really know how much they train together now. Is this legit? Is this going to happen? From what we're seeing right now, sounds like it sounds like it's heading in this direction. Now, the questions are going to come, does this happen? I think there's a shot that this happens, right? Because the UFC can sit there, as long as they're a part of this and they're going to benefit from him, why not let Conor do this? And then if Conor can go in there and he can beat Logan Paul, which I think it would basically be like a glorified sparring match if I had to guess, right? So if that happens, then he gets his feet wet. He gets back into the realm of combat sports without having to worry about takedowns, elbows, and all that, just punching. that puts him in a little bit of a different headspace to where maybe if he could build some confidence, he could make a bunch of money, he could then find his way back into the UFC. But to go in there and make that kind of money against someone who's not even a real fighter, is just a guy that's just casually boxed from here and there. That's why I say, like, I respect Jake Paul, man. Whether you like Jake Paul or not, that guy trades his ass off. He basically, he cherry picks his opponents and strategically picks. That guy trains like a full-time boxer. Like, he absolutely is invested into the sport, where Logan is not. He's basically a part-time boxer, a part-time fighter. He just does it for, the money, to have fun pretty much, because he is a good athlete and he can get away with that. That's what this is all about. And if you tell me Conor's going to go in there, make $250 million off of this, I don't know how he returns to the UFC, man. So this tells me a couple things, right? To finish up, he's having a conversation with the UFC and they get this done to get him kind of that tune-up that he's looking for. Then he can come back to the UFC. Or this is it for Conor. Goes in there, gets his cash grab, gets one more big thing for, here, and then just rides off and he's like, I'm done with fighting. Or maybe it carves an avenue for him in boxing. I don't know. But to say that this isn't something that's going to happen or there's no possibility, I think there is definitely a shot that this could definitely potentially happen, considering the relationship between the WWE and the UFC. And to cap it off, Logan Paul and Dana White, I'm pretty sure they have a pretty decent relationship together. I mean, Prime Drink, Logan Paul's behind that. They've been a sponsor of the UFC. They've been on the canvas / the octagon. The relationships are there. The ease is there. And I feel like if everybody wins, I think it's something that can definitely happen. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. I would appreciate it. See you next time.